There are some very unique things happening in car design that I'm going to share with you. I think is interesting and important for people beyond the car industry to know, because every single person probably watching this video, I think, engages with the space of cars, buses, you name it. It is a system and it needs to change. This video is going to unpack the barriers that exclude women from the automotive design space. So before I dive into what might be quite a negative view on the automotive industry and car design specifically, nothing that I say about in this video is anything but my personal beliefs. I am also new to the automotive industry. I've been here working for 3 years, 2 years in an automotive design department, and I come from a background in organizational psychology. So I do have a degree of understanding and knowledge of people's behavior within business. And I think that has allowed me to take a unique view on this industry and car design specifically. My favorite troll comment from my last video, I wish you were correct. I wish it was as easy as women studying something, applying for a job, getting into an organization and working in that space, having a thriving career. It is not that simple. Automotive design isn't the only industry that hasn't really changed since women were emancipated. While some factors are similar across industries, like professions being gendered, you know that firefighters are for boys and nurses are for girls, and children learn this at a really young age through society. It becomes ingrained in what their beliefs are for themselves and what their ambition is. This directs and leads children to one profession or another. There are some very unique things happening in car design. It gives this whole situation toxic, kind of dark spin. Beyond that, I've made a whole video about why I think it's important for the industry to change, not just to include more women, but to bring people in who are different so the space can evolve to serve society. As a design strategist, my role is to ensure that the design department is able to meet the business ambitions that we have. Specifically, I focus on how we can get people in a space to have a thriving career. When people are thriving, they do their best work. And when you have one woman in a room of 25 men, that one woman is probably not going to be able to do their best work in that space. Many of my colleagues and women that I've encountered in the industry as a whole speak about leaving the automotive industry. They love design. They do not want to leave design. It is automotive that is toxic and dark. What is going on? One of my favorite female leaders, Indra Nooyi, speaks about the dynamic of women in spaces that are traditionally men. To quote her, we have to address this issue of conscious and unconscious bias. You strip those people, you slowly strip them of their confidence. When you strip them of their confidence, you strip away their competence, their ability to do their work. You could be the most incredible talent, you could have all the tools and resources at your disposal, but if someone is presenting you with conscious and unconscious bias that strips you of your confidence, your ability to do your work will suffer. Automotive culture and car design, it was allowed to fester as a subculture. This department was so integral in creating cars that made a lot of people a lot of money. We need cars, and no one seemed to care how these cars were created, because there are no alternatives that are better. So now we're looking in the mirror, and this is the triangle from Indra Nooyi's quote. Here we can see conscious and unconscious bias is feeding into attacking competence, and that feeds into attacking competence. Then we look into conscious and unconscious bias. What is an example of this? Well, one conscious bias is harassment. Women being told that you're a woman, you don't belong in this space, or we can't hire you because you are not driven enough, or confident enough, or you don't have the aggressive communication skills we need. These are things that women in this industry face all the time. But then you get into the structures of the space. So an automotive design department that doesn't have a very clear career progression structure means that it's usually down to unconscious bias, people's individual network, what they feel about a person, for somebody to progress in a space. If a woman is not progressing in a car design space, that is going to attack confidence. It would for anybody, but it compounds for a woman. Then again, you go into attacking competence. If there are processes in place that benefit men and male characteristics, that again is going to be a compounding factor for women. And the process I'm referring to here is that in a lot of automotive design companies, you have a competition system where different people compete against their colleagues, the people in their actual team, to have their design as being the winning design that is then the one taken through to modeling and being the car that is actually made. And this is one of those unique, weird things to car design. What's next? Well, here we're going to unpack 3 broad buckets that I was referring to earlier. We have societal buckets, things that generally happen across multiple industries that are male dominated. Then we have the automotive industry as a whole. You get engineers in the automotive industry, you get software developers, you get car designers, you get people in HR, whatever. They're all kind of subjected to these sorts of things. And then you get car design specifically, the department, that space. Yeah, we're going to dig into not all of them, but a couple of them that exemplify what I'm talking about, societal industry car design. So yes, design can be a high-risk career. What does this mean? Well, it can be viewed as a craft, and not everybody makes it within this profession. When a person at, university is deciding what career path to go on, some people are very risk averse, and women are usually more risk averse in this space than men are. So women are likely to choose a more stable career, such as teaching. There is also the assumption that women are equal within society, that now that they have equal access to jobs, equal access to education, that they are equally as able to get access to an opportunity as a man. And when they have access to that opportunity, that they are treated equally within that space, which is not true. There are all sorts of things, such as policies for men, organizations who have a policy to have very specific criteria on a job advertisement may put women off from applying for that job advertisement, and that may give men more opportunity within that space. Men are more inclined to apply for jobs even if they only meet 50 or 60% of the criteria, whereas women usually only apply for a job when they meet 80 or 90% of the criteria. Something so simple as how you describe the requirements for a job may predispose men to have more opportunities within that space. And then lastly, car design. We've already unpacked the competition culture. Let's look at another one. Promoting the only woman in the team to media. This is something that is extremely off-putting for women. It creates an intense feeling of disillusionment within that organization. If you are the only woman in an automotive design team and you are constantly asked to fulfill the media requests within that organization, the tokenism of the space, the organization believes it's fulfilling its requirement because it's showing the public that they have women designers in this space. The woman is feeling a complete disparity between what the organization is presenting outwardly and what is actually happening inside the organization. That is something that reinforces the low confidence and then attacking the competence. If you feel like you're only in that space because you are a woman, because they need you for this one thing, that is not going to be a space where you do your best work, and the cycle that we know continues. So let's look at how some of these things feed into each other. Yes, we know car design is a gendered profession. Boys grow up believing they can be car designers. Women don't even consider it. Cars aren't for them. Same for me. I did not think I would ever have a career in automotive, let alone automotive design. People aren't aware that car design even is a profession at the right time when they need to be choosing a direction in their career. There are these policies in place that favor men over women, and that leads to being a lack of female leaders within this space, a lack of role models for other women to look up to, which reinforces again that lack of awareness that we saw in the beginning and a belief that it is a gendered profession. Then we see that automotive design, I didn't mention this before, but has a very specific hierarchy culture. Most designers are working their way up to be the head of a car design department. That is the pinnacle of automotive design, to my understanding. This hierarchy culture means that person in that space has the power. That is the system that leaders are going to reinforce. So if you're a leader in that space, you want to maintain the structures that got you to that position in the first place. We can see because of this hierarchy culture, there are a lack of female decision makers. In automotive design, there's also a high pay disparity. Thank you, people at Concept House who pull together all of the data on employees within the car design space, because it's very very irregular that a woman ascends into a head of position in a car design department and, head of car design. I think there's only been 2 or 3 women in the history of automotive. You go right back to the start where we see that there is a high risk career here. Women are not going to earn money in this space, especially not as much money as men in the space. So it reinforces that this is just not a career for me as a woman. This is not even going into the other frustrations that women face daily, whether it's not having their voice heard within a space because they are the only woman, there's no one else to back them up, whether it's because they are experiencing harassment, being told that they're too pretty to be in car design. My team would eat that woman alive. So there's all these sorts of things that aren't even on the structural level, the harassment, the things we know happen in male-dominated spaces. This is just looking at a few of the barriers that create this system and cycle that exclude women from a space. Then we look at all these things reinforcing themselves. You can start to be overwhelmed. How do we change this system? I'm going to leave you on that note because there's a lot here for you to dig into. I could go into every single one of these. It would be a very long video. If we can recognize these things, we can know these things, we can begin to change the system. If you have a will and a desire to change and to evolve and to raise up the voices of people, especially if you have privilege, then you can begin to tackle these things within your work, whether you're in car design, the automotive industry, or society, and it's some other industry that you're thinking of. Look out for this stuff, see when it's happening, then you can begin to target an intervention or change. The next video is going to look at a strategic framework that I use to go about systems level evolution. If you're interested in that, comment down below, let me know your thoughts on this video, subscribe so you don't miss that video, and I will see you then.